The galaxy was fragile, stretched thin between decades of war and fragile truces. Planets bore the scars of endless conflict, and entire civilizations balanced precariously on the edge of collapse. Amidst this chaos she emerged, Leora, a diplomat of unmatched skill, whose mission was simple yet impossible: bring peace to the fractured worlds. She had spent years negotiating, pleading, and navigating the delicate currents of politics and pride. Kings and generals, warlords and scholars, all had tested her patience and resolve. And yet, despite every effort, the war lingered, as relentless and unyielding as the stars themselves. Then he arrived, Ronan, a man ordinary by all accounts, yet carrying a reputation that no strategy or diplomacy could predict. He was a soldier without command, a wanderer without plan, and yet his choices had the weight of entire worlds. When Leora met him on a neutral station orbiting a fractured planet, she sensed something unusual. There was no arrogance, no sense of superiority, just presence, just determination. "I need you," she said, voice steady yet edged with desperation. "The galaxy is on the verge of collapse.
Entire civilizations will fall unless someone acts decisively.
I am asking you, no, I am pleading with you to make a choice that no one else will make." Ronan's eyes studied her, unflinching. "And if I fail?" "Failure is not an option," Leora replied. "Not for you, not for me, not for anyone." He nodded slowly. He did not speak of heroism or glory. He spoke only of responsibility, the kind that binds the living and the dying, the weak and the strong. And in that silence, Leora understood. This man, ordinary as he seemed, would do the impossible. Their journey began. They traveled across shattered planets, through fleets on the brink of destruction, and into negotiations where betrayal was currency. Ronan moved with instinct, courage, and intuition. He saved ships moments from annihilation, guided civilians to safety, and made choices that no simulation or expert counsel could predict. Each decision was a gamble, each action a defiance of odds that would have crushed anyone else. Yet the galaxy demanded more. A shadow had begun to stir in the far reaches, a coalition of warlords fueled by fear and ambition, seeking to impose chaos across all systems. Ronan and Leora were caught between impossible choices: act and risk lives, or remain cautious and allow destruction to spread. Then, in a confrontation that would determine the fate of hundreds of worlds, Ronan made a choice. He defied protocol, ignored the warnings, and executed a strategy that seemed reckless to all but him. Entire fleets were redirected, crucial alliances leveraged, and a weapon of unimaginable power neutralized, not through firepower, but through timing, courage, and an intuition that no one could have taught. Leora watched, heart pounding as the impossible unfolded. "You risked everything," she said. "Why?" Ronan's gaze was steady, unwavering. "Because peace isn't given. It's chosen. Someone has to be willing to bear the cost." The consequences were immediate and irreversible. Worlds were spared from annihilation, but the balance of power shifted. Alliances broke, betrayals surfaced, and the galaxy, though saved, was forever changed. Peace had arrived, yes, but at a price that left everyone questioning their future. Yet in the quiet aftermath, life began to bloom once more. Cities rebuilt themselves, rivers returned to their beds, and people began to hope again. Leora realized that the man who had seemed ordinary had done something extraordinary. He had demonstrated that one choice, made with courage and conviction, could alter the course of existence. And Ronan? He did not linger in triumph. He walked among the people he had saved, helping, listening, guiding, not as a hero to be worshipped, but as a man who understood the fragility and power of hope. The galaxy remembered him, not for the battles he won, but for the choice he made when everything else seemed impossible. And in that choice, Leora found the peace she had been searching for, not just for herself, but for all the worlds she had once feared were lost forever. Because sometimes, peace is not about agreements or treaties. Sometimes, peace is about daring to choose the impossible. Even when the cost is everything, the galaxy was far from forgiving. Ronan and Leora traveled from one fractured system to another, each more perilous than the last. Planets scarred by war, fleets teetering on the brink of destruction, entire civilizations trembling under the weight of fear and ambition. Everywhere, the consequences of inaction were immediate and devastating. Ronan, Despite his ordinary background, moved with instinct and courage that no strategist could replicate, he piloted ships through collapsing asteroid fields, intercepted convoys moments from annihilation, and delivered messages of peace where no diplomat dared go. Every decision carried unimaginable weight. Every failure would mean death not just for him but for countless others. Leora watched him closely, admiration and fear mingling in her chest. He was human, yes, fragile, unprepared, vulnerable. Yet he acted with a certainty born of understanding the stakes on a scale she had never known. During one particularly harrowing mission, they arrived at a neutral planet caught between two warring fleets. A single misstep could ignite a battle that would annihilate everyone on the planet and ripple across neighboring systems. Leora prepared all her diplomatic protocols, every calculation and simulation, but Ronan approached it differently. He moved with instinct, reading the subtle cues of the generals, listening to the whispers of doubt among soldiers, sensing hesitation and fear where logic only saw numbers. With nothing but his voice and quiet authority, he persuaded the opposing commanders to delay their attack, to reconsider their actions not through force, but through the weight of courage and moral clarity. Leora was stunned. "How did you do that?" she whispered when the confrontation ended peacefully. Ronan shrugged, wiping sweat from his brow. "I just reminded them what it feels like to be human. Sometimes that's enough." Their journey only grew more dangerous. In the outer sectors, an ancient intelligence, a coalition of warlords and merciless strategists, had sensed Ronan's influence and began to take measures to stop him. Entire fleets maneuvered to trap them, while political schemes aimed to undermine Leora's authority and isolate Ronan. Yet he continued. He moved faster, thought sharper, and acted decisively. He rescued convoys on the verge of destruction, guided civilians to safety, and navigated treacherous negotiations where a single misstep would mean the deaths of thousands. Each choice was a gamble, each maneuver a defiance of the universe's apparent rules. One night aboard their ship, Leora confronted him quietly. "You're risking everything, why? You don't have to carry this alone." Ronan looked out at the stars, eyes reflecting distant suns. "I promised you peace, yes. But peace isn't given. It's chosen. Someone has to take the risk or nothing changes. I can't watch the galaxy burn when I can act." The weight of that truth settled between them. Leora realized that the human before her, so seemingly ordinary, carried something far greater than diplomacy or strategy. He carried courage in its purest form, the willingness to act, to bear the consequences, to defy impossible odds not for glory, but for life itself. And as they approached the heart of the next conflict, a region where warlords plotted to strike multiple systems simultaneously, Ronan prepared to make another impossible choice. It would demand everything: skill, courage, intuition, and sacrifice. But if he succeeded, he could prevent devastation on a scale that no one else could even comprehend. The galaxy waited, and one human, ordinary in name but extraordinary in resolve, prepared to defy the impossible once again. The galaxy quivered on the edge of chaos. Ronan and Leora now faced the most perilous leg of their journey. Across countless star systems, fleets clashed with merciless precision. Planets burned, and the cries of billions echoed silently through space. What they had prevented before now threatened to explode in a wave of destruction that no ordinary being could survive. Ronan's hands flew over the controls of their battered ship. Shields flickered, engines strained, and sensors blared warnings of incoming attacks from multiple directions. Yet he moved with a calm born of understanding stakes that transcended fear. Every split-second decision held the lives of entire civilizations in its balance. Leora, coordinating through diplomatic channels, tried to guide him. "Ronan, you can't save them all. We need to focus on the systems where we have the highest chance of success." He shook his head, voice steady despite exhaustion. "No, we don't get to choose who lives and who dies. We just act. Whoever survives will remember why someone risked everything." Their next destination was the Auric Expanse, a sector of the galaxy where warlords had formed a coalition, planning to strike simultaneously across multiple systems. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of time. Ronan piloted the ship through asteroid belts and plasma storms, dodging barrages meant to annihilate them before they could even reach the heart of the coalition. When they arrived, negotiations failed before they even began. The warlords mocked him, dismissed him, called him nothing but a human who would perish like the countless others before him. Yet Ronan did not falter. He spoke with clarity and conviction, appealing to reason, morality, and fear of annihilation. Each word, each pause carried more weight than any weapon. Then when diplomacy faltered, the impossible became action. Ronan devised maneuvers no fleet commander could anticipate, turning the enemy's own ships against them with precise strategy and daring improvisation. Entire battalions were saved from destruction by his instincts, civilians evacuated, and key allies protected through split-second risk. Leora watched, awe and terror mingling in her heart. "You're bending reality," she whispered. Ronan did not answer. He only acted, but the universe was not yet done testing him. An ancient intelligence older than any civilization sensed the ripple of hope he carried. It sent its agents ships faster than thought, weapons deadlier than anything ever created, seeking to crush the human whose choices defied fate itself. Ronan, exhausted and battered, faced them head-on. Every maneuver was countered, every strategy tested, every instinct pushed to its limit. He dodged annihilation by inches, saved convoys moments from destruction, and inspired allied commanders to act in ways they never thought possible. Late that night, in the quiet of a temporary lull, Leora approached him. "Ronan, even if we survive, the galaxy may never forgive the choices you've made." He looked at her, eyes reflecting distant stars and burning suns. "Maybe, but someone has to act. Someone has to choose hope when everything tells you to give up. That's the only way any of this works." The weight of his courage settled over her. She had spent lifetimes negotiating, calculating, and planning. But it was this human, flawed, ordinary, and fearless, who was turning the tide of war through sheer will and unwavering heart. And as they prepared for the next, inevitable wave of conflict, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath, watching as one man and one woman stood against impossible odds, daring to bend fate with courage, love, and hope. For in the darkest moments, when entire systems teetered on the brink, one human had proven that choices, no matter how impossible, could shape the destiny of worlds. The universe awaited his next move. The heart of the galaxy burned like a dying star. Ronan and Leora approached the center of the conflict, a sector where rival fleets converged, and the balance of life and death teetered on a knife's edge. Entire planets trembled under the weight of impending war. Asteroids collided in fiery arcs, and the void itself seemed to hum with the anticipation of destruction. Their ship, battered from previous encounters, shuddered with every maneuver. Ronan's hands flew over the controls, calculating impossible trajectories, dodging annihilation by inches. Leora coordinated the delicate threads of diplomacy, sending messages of ceasefire, redirecting fleets, trying to avert catastrophe. But words alone could not hold the galaxy together now. "They'll crush us," Leora whispered, her voice barely audible over the alarms. Ronan's gaze was steady, unwavering. "Then we show them that hope cannot be crushed. Not if we act." Enemy fleets emerged from every corner, weapons blazing like suns. Each volley threatened to obliterate everything in its path. Civilians trapped in orbiting stations, convoys carrying refugees, cities on vulnerable planets, all depended on their next move. Then came the ultimate test. The enemy leader, a being older than any known species, unleashed a superweapon capable of annihilating entire systems. Ships disintegrated instantly, shields overloaded. Panic swept through Allied fleets. Ronan did not hesitate. With impossible precision, he maneuvered the ship directly into the pulse's path, diverting its energy, creating a temporary shield that protected hundreds of ships and countless lives. Every ounce of strength and courage he had was pushed to the limit. The shuttle groaned, sparks flying, hull cracking. Leora reached him instantly, placing her hands on his shoulders. "Ronan, it's too much. Step back." "I can't," he panted, sweat and grime covering his face. "If I stop, everything dies. This is the moment. This is now." With a final daring maneuver, the weapon's energy dispersed harmlessly into space. Enemy fleets staggered, and the coalition's momentum collapsed. Planets once destined for annihilation survived. Lives once counted as lost continued, breathing, hoping, rebuilding. As silence settled, the cost became clear. Their ship was in ruins, barely holding together. Systems failed, life support flickered, and Ronan collapsed from exhaustion. Leora steadied him, tears streaming down her face. You saved them all, she whispered. Ronan smiled faintly, voice weak but resolute. We'd saved them together. That's all anyone can do. And then, as if the universe itself recognized their courage, a ripple of energy spread across the galaxy, a luminous wave of hope carried not by weapons or fleets, but by the choices of one human who had dared to defy impossible odds. Enemy fleets retreated, not defeated by firepower, but by the awakening of conscience, courage, and the understanding that the galaxy would no longer tolerate annihilation. Ronan and Leora floated amidst the aftermath, battered but alive. They looked at the galaxy, once trembling, now alive with possibility. Cities glimmered, rivers reflected the twin suns, and stars pulsed gently, as if acknowledging the heroism of a single human heart. You've returned the impossible, Leora said softly, voice trembling. No, Ronan replied. We returned it together, that's all that matters. The galaxy had changed forever. Hope, fragile yet unyielding, had been restored. And one human, ordinary yet extraordinary, had proven that courage, love, and choice could reshape the fate of worlds. The galaxy exhaled slowly, like a wounded being finally finding air. Ronan and Leora now walked through worlds scarred by war, yet alive once more. Cities that had been razed rose slowly, rebuilt by hands eager for life, laughter, and hope. Rivers that had boiled under fire now sparkled, reflecting twin suns in tranquil harmony. Across countless systems, survivors returned to their homes, each step a quiet victory, each laugh a rebellion against despair. Ronan moved among them, hands covered in dust, helping rebuild structures, distributing supplies, speaking quietly with those too young or too old to understand the battles that had raged. Children ran past him, laughter spilling into the air, and for a moment he allowed himself to feel peace. Not triumph, not glory, peace, Leora observed, pride and admiration mingling with a deep, cautious joy. She had relied on diplomacy, logic, and centuries of knowledge to navigate the galaxy, yet it was this human, fragile, ordinary, yet unflinchingly courageous, who had restored balance in ways no treaty could. You did more than survive, she said softly. You reminded them what it means to fight for life. Ronan shook his head. I didn't remind anyone. I acted when I had to. The rest is up to them. And the galaxy responded. Across star systems, stories spread, not of battles won or enemies slain, but of a human who dared to act when everything seemed lost. Leaders reconsidered old conflicts. Civilians found courage to rebuild, and hope became a living force once more. Leora traveled alongside Ronan, guiding those who had once waged war against one another, teaching them that cooperation, trust, and courage could save worlds faster than fleets of ships ever could. The legacy of Ronan's choices began to spread, igniting sparks of action in the hearts of ordinary beings across countless systems. Months turned into years. The galaxy healed slowly, unevenly, but undeniably. Trade routes reopened, communities thrived, and children who had never known peace now played under starlit skies, learning the lessons of courage and hope that had saved them. One evening, Ronan sat beside a river of starlight flowing through a recovered city, watching a small child clutch a glowing star-shaped pendant. The child looked up at him, eyes wide with wonder. Are you the one who saved everything? The child asked. Ronan smiled softly. I'm just someone who chose to act. That's all anyone can do. The child's eyes sparkled. Then hope lives in me too? Ronan placed the pendant gently in the child's hands. Yes, hope lives wherever someone dares to choose it. Leora joined them, her hand resting lightly on Ronan's shoulder. The story isn't just ours anymore, she said. It continues in everyone who learns to hope because of what you did. Ronan looked up at the stars, calm at last. He realized that victory was not a moment but a process. Hope was not a gift but a responsibility. And the ripples of his choices would echo across generations, far beyond what he could ever see. As twin suns set across the city, bathing it in golden and violet light, Ronan and Leora stood together, witnessing a galaxy reborn, fragile yet alive, full of possibility. The impossible had been achieved. The galaxy had survived, and the legacy of one human, brave enough to act when no one else could, had just begun. Years passed quietly, like starlight flowing across the galaxy. Ronan had become more than a man. He was a symbol, not of power or conquest, but of courage, of choice, of the extraordinary strength that lies in ordinary beings. Leora remained by his side, a constant presence of guidance, support, and understanding. Together they had reshaped the fate of worlds. The galaxy had healed, though not without scars. Some planets were still fragile, some civilizations cautious, yet hope had taken root. It was alive, persistent, and growing. Stories of Ronan's choices spread, inspiring leaders, civilians, and children alike to act with courage, compassion, and foresight. The legacy of one human's daring heart began to ripple through generations. One evening, on a hill overlooking a city restored to life, Ronan watched children playing among gardens illuminated by starlight, their laughter mixing with the soft hum of energy fields powering rebuilt cities. Life had returned in ways he could scarcely have imagined. Leora stood beside him, voice soft but firm. "Do you ever wonder if it was all worth it?" Ronan gazed at the horizon, where rivers reflected twin suns and distant starships moved peacefully. Every choice, every risk, every impossible step, yes, it was all worth it. The new generation began to rise. Children who had never known war now learned to lead, to think, to hope. And though the galaxy still held challenges, it had learned a lesson no army could teach. That one human heart, willing to act, could alter the course of the universe. Far across the stars, former enemies worked together. Diplomacy replaced aggression. Cooperation replaced fear. And in quiet corners of the cosmos, stars pulsed faintly, as if echoing the courage and determination of the man who had dared to choose hope. Ronan knelt beside a small child holding a miniature star-shaped pendant, the same symbol he had carried through so many impossible battles. "Carry this," he said gently, "not as a weapon, not as a symbol of power, but as a reminder that one person can make a difference." The child nodded, eyes wide with understanding. Leora placed her hand on Ronan's shoulder. "We've done all we could. Now it's their turn." Ronan looked up at the stars, calm at last. The galaxy was alive, vibrant, and free. He understood that hope was not a moment, but a living force, and love, patient, enduring, unyielding, would continue long after he was gone. As night settled over the twin moons, the city bathed in silver and violet light. Ronan and Leora stood together, small yet infinite in their courage, watching the universe they had saved. And in the quiet between stars, the impossible became remembered not as legend, but as life itself. The story ended not with battles won, nor with enemies defeated, but with a simple, eternal truth. Hope is stronger than fear. Love is stronger than hate. And the choices of one heart can echo across galaxies, inspiring countless others. The universe breathed again. Peace had returned, and the impossible had been made real. The end